in spite of those last-minute heroics, taking 3 wickets out of nowhere and dragging the game on for a bit longer than it ought to have been, you would have to have said that no matter what the end-up result is, the fact of the matter is that Diamond Creek did not score enough runs in their first innings. They should have scored something about 125. That was what they were looking towards getting, and the fact that they lost all of those wickets and they started to lose the plot in the second half after the drinks break is why they only scored 109 and they failed to get the score that they were clearly aiming for. And in the end, those 15 runs, which they didn't get, but they were on target to get, are pretty much what would have made this a really unbelievably exciting contest, because needing another 15 runs with 2 wickets in hand in 2 overs would have been fascinating. But in the end, McLeod were always a little bit ahead of the game, and despite all the momentum shifts throughout the innings, they remained ahead of the game, and they were definitely the team to win, and they did win. So yeah, the key session that decided this outcome was the second half of Diamond Creek's batting, which turned the game around from being 1 for 50 to all out for less than 110. It was the key period which prevented Diamond Creek from making enough runs to defend a reasonable total, and it allowed McLeod to be in a position where they did not have to worry about how they would have approached this run chase, because 109, because it's so small, it means that even when there are periods of good bowling by Diamond Creek, even when they lose wickets, they know that there is they know that the target is low enough that they don't have to worry about it, and the required run rate is incapable of jumping up high enough that it becomes something to be concerned about. And so in the end, the McLeod run chase was never tested and put under great stress or hardship, because they knew that the target was never something that they could never reach. So, despite every effort that Diamond Creek did, despite heroic work by Diamond Creek throughout this bowling innings, they could not get ahead of the game and actually get themselves into a position where they could have won, simply because they weren't defending enough runs. I have to say, Diamond Creek put up a really good effort bowling. I was a little bit unsure, particularly how they were using the new ball. I felt as though they weren't trying to take advantage of the swing and the seam of the new ball to take some wickets, and they were being too defensive too early on. But after that, when it came to bringing on the change bowlers and then the spinners in a holding operation to try to keep the run rate down, to prevent McLeod from running away with it and trying to keep themselves in the game, that was when McLeod were tested, when Diamond Creek seemed most confident and most in a position where they were actually playing the type of cricket that they wanted to play. And so it's just a shame. They took 1 wicket with the new ball, but I feel like they didn't really attack enough. Maybe they should have had a, I don't know, extra slip, or kept the field stacked on the offside for longer, trying to encourage the new ball bowlers to bowl more swingers. But whatever the case may be, the fact of the matter is that the second half, especially after the drinks break, I felt that the spinners did an excellent job. I felt that after the new ball bowlers, I felt that the second change bowlers did a really good job. And then things just did not work at the very end. I think that after the two spinners had finished off their spells, and the captain had to bring back the opening fast bowlers to try to finish off the game, that was when things just didn't work, because now the McLeod batsmen had some pace to work with. Their strokes were coming off a bit better, and then it was a bit more comfortable and easy to play shots because it was faster, because the difficulties of spin and guile and flight were not there to worry about, and the ball was not moving either in the air or off the seam, and so it was not a huge test or concern. And then, to add to that, the bowlers kept bowling full tosses, and it made hitting very easy, or relatively easy, for the lower order McLeod batsmen, which is why, that's why the scoring rate actually increased after the spinners were taken off and the seamers were brought on. So, right up until when the spinners finished their spells, it was still the game was still in that same state of equilibrium, where McLeod was still had quite a lot of work to do, and Diamond Creek were behind the game, but Diamond Creek were not out of the game. They were still in it. They still had a chance to get back into it. But then, when the seamers came back on, the scoring rate increased, and the game suddenly ended faster than when we would have otherwise expected. Considering how fast McLeod had been going throughout their innings, you would have expected, based on the maths, that this would have come down to the final over, or at least the second last over. But in the end, the final runs were scored, well, nearly scored, in the fourth last over, and it was only by leaving the last two balls alone that it was kept till the third last over, and then the bizarreness of the third last over nonetheless resulted in the winning runs getting scored. So, if we just imagine that the winning runs had been scored instead of leaving those last two balls outside the off stump, well, that would have left 18 balls left in the McLeod innings. And that's much more than what would have otherwise been expected if McLeod had continued batting at their run rate, which they had throughout the time that they were facing the spinners. So, let me show you these stats. The 21st over conceded 1 run. The 22nd over conceded 3 runs. The 23rd over conceded 1 run. The 24th over conceded 2 runs. The 25th over conceded 5 runs. 26th over conceded 3 runs. 27th conceded 2. 28th conceded 4. The 29th was a wicket maiden. The 30th conceded 1. And 31st conceded 3. And that's when things changed. The 32nd conceded 4. The 33rd conceded 6. The 34th conceded 3. The 35th conceded 4. The 36th conceded 4. The 37th conceded 7. And then the incompleted 38th conceded 4. So, rather than scoring 2 or 3 or 1 runs per over throughout facing the spinners, suddenly McLeod was scoring 3 or 4 or more per over when they were facing the fast bowlers, and that's why the winning runs were scored much earlier than otherwise would have been expected if they had continued their run rate throughout the course of their innings. Alright, I think it's time to take a break, and when we come back we will have the wrap up of this game. You are watching Channel 8, the local sports network, in association with our partners, Biz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I am your host, the Managing Director of Sports Production, Chucka Wilson. Don't go away. Right after this break, we will have the final wrap-up of the game, and then we will say goodbye to everyone.
was the guest of honor to watch the slaughter of peasants who had dared to try for freedom. With suits and dresses and priceless frescoes, I passed the marble halls to reach the banquet. The dukes and lords were gathered around a banquet fit for a king, with silver platters and grease-stained splatters. They held a feast like none I'd ever seen. His Royal Highness, he wined and dined us a toast to all his conquests of the land. The food was stunning if ever I saw a banquet fit for a king. When we were done, he said, now comes the fun, where we waste all these treasonous fools. Here is my knife, I'll let you take the life of the one that you think is the worst. And so I turned and faced the king. I stabbed that knife down on his gold crown, his royal bloodline spewing on the marble. His eyes besieged me in this hollow screech plea. Oh, why would someone do this to me? The guards were slack-jawed. I ran through the courtyard. The prisoners were following behind. I gave that bastard what he deserved: a funeral. Fit for a king.
By the way, for those of you who want to keep updated with what's happening in the Ashes cricket, I can tell you that the tea break has been taken at Perth. This is day 3 of the 3rd test in the Ashes of 2017-18 between Australia and England, and Australia have been absolutely dominating proceedings. They've lost only 1 wicket and scored over 200 runs. They are now at 420 for 4, and that means that they have a lead now, so they're in front of the game. Still only 4 wickets down, having lost Shaun Marsh very early in the morning. And Mitch Marsh was able to score 100, his first ever Test match 100, just before the break for tea, and he received a very, very emotional and excited round of applause from all of the crowd and from his teammates, having scored his first Test century at his home ground, making his comeback Test match into the team after having been dropped several times for underperforming. So it's this is seen like a fairy tale because he's matured so much over the course of the last 6 months, having been given the captaincy of Western Australia, having scored lots and lots of runs in the Sheffield Shield, having put more responsibility on himself in terms of working hard at batting and trying to improve his quality of cricket. And so it seems like so far it's really paid off because he's scored his first Test 100, and it's been really exciting. Steve Smith is at the other end, not out. I don't know what he's on, but it's sure going to be a lot. And so Australia still 4 wickets down with a lead, with the final session of the day to come, and then it's just a matter of seeing how many runs they score and what they decide to do come day 4. And Australia scored 1 for 100 in the first session, and then none for over 100 in the second session. So 1 run from 1 wicket for over 200 runs over the course of the day's play, which really gives you an indication of how much they've outplayed England through the course of today. Alright, so obviously this is the end of the Channel 8 broadcast, so this is the last update we'll have for you in terms of what's happening. So from now on you'll just have to turn back to the ABC radio or Channel 9 to watch the rest of the game, because we can't update you anymore because we're about to say goodbye. Okay, so let's just recap on what happened today. So, Diamond Creek won the toss, and, well, we don't actually know who won the toss. Diamond Creek batted first. That's what we do know. Diamond Creek batted first, and they got off to a very comfortable start, very good start. Their opening batsmen were very proactive and aggressive, and they were taking the runs where they came, and when they felt like they could jump on some loose bowling and score boundaries, they did it, and when there was good bowling, they left it alone. So after the 10th over, the score was none for 23, which is an excellent foundation to launch something much bigger come the second half of the innings, when the new ball is gone, when scoring becomes much easier, when the fielders are tired and the bowlers are tired. That's when you would take advantage of a good start like that. But then they lost a wicket. They lost their first wicket at 1 for 24. It was a senseless run out. But then the second wicket partnership was excellent. It only lasted a few overs, and yet it scored lots of runs, very aggressive, very proactive, very exciting. And so by the end of the 17th over, the score was 1 for 49. 1 for 49 after 17 overs. That would have been an incredible situation to be in. What a great position, where you have the new ball's completely gone, you have kept all your wickets intact, your run rate is very healthy, and you are in a position to just launch into something really exciting once you've taken the drinks break. Things started to unravel for Diamond Creek in the next couple of overs. They lost their second wicket in the 18th over, falling to 2 for 49. And then they lost their third wicket, 3 for 56, in the final ball before the drinks break. So 3 for 56 at the drinks break was nowhere near as comfortable or as strong or sturdy as 1 for 49 had been, but still, it's not something to, worry about, nothing to panic about. Still good, still a good position. But then things went from bad to worse. So, in the first over back, there was another run out, taking the score to 4 for 59. Then there was some very tight bowling from McLeod, which kept the run rate, the scoring rate down. And then the 5th wicket fell in the 25th over, making the score 5 for 66. So 5 for 66 after 24.1 overs, and suddenly that was pretty much when things had fallen into a disaster, because all your top batsmen are gone, and now it's a matter of your lower order finding a way to manufacture something. And at that point, you know, even though you have your lower order, the fact of the matter is that the ball is old, so you should be able to hit around an old ball reasonably well, and maybe not double your score, but at least do a moderately good performance, maybe score 50 more runs. Well, that's what they ended up doing. So they more or less just, from that position of being in trouble at 5 for 66, they more or less, the tail did as much as you could have expected them to have done, considering the situation. But before then, so there were some more tight overs from McLeod, and then in the 29th over, the 6th wicket fell, 6 for 71, and then a very good partnership developed, which took up, you know, over half an hour, worth 34 runs, and that took the innings of Diamond Creek right up towards the final 5. And then the 7th wicket fell. The 7th wicket fell in the 38th over, 102 for 7, and then there were 3 wickets in 4 balls in the final over. 8 for 109, 9 for 109, all out for 109. So that lower order partnership for the 7th wicket was what allowed Diamond Creek to reach the score that they did, rather than being bowled out for something like 60 or 70 or 80. So it was the lower order hitting, that partnership, which was the wagging of the tail needed to add those extra runs, which allowed Diamond Creek to score something that was at least defendable. Alright, so in response, things got off to a good start for Diamond Creek when they took the first wicket in just the second ball of the innings, 1 for none. But then a very good partnership worth 42 runs for the second wicket, which went not only past the first 10 overs, but the wickets didn't fall until the 12th over. So right up until the end of the 11th over, the score was 1 for 36. And then it ended up being 1 for 42 before the 2 wickets fell in the 12th over. So it went from 2 for 42, 3 for 42. And then there were some tight overs. The 4th wicket fell in the 15th over, 4 for 45. And so at 4 for 45, after 15 overs, that was when Diamond Creek would have thought that they had a real chance, because that is comparable to what they had been in. I mean, 5 for 66 is what Diamond Creek had been in a mid-order slump, and now McLeod's mid-order slump had got them to 4 for 45. Okay, Diamond Creek are in this game. But then along comes a very good partnership for the 5th wicket, which not only sees McLeod through the final 5 overs before the drinks break, which of course takes a lot of the air out of Diamond Creek's sails, but then advances the scoring further after the resumption of play after the drinks break. So, like I said, the 4th wicket fell in the 15th over. And it wasn't until the 29th over that the 5th wicket fell. So 14 overs, and 14 overs of a partnership, and the score had gone from 45 to 77. So 14 overs, 32 runs. It was scoring at a reasonable rate, just enough to stay on target, and it prevented Diamond Creek from getting more momentum and more confidence from continuously taking more and more wickets. So all of that momentum was just numbed and nullified through that partnership, which basically it broke down the aggression of Diamond Creek. So that by the time the 5th wicket fell at 5 for 77, Diamond Creek were way behind the game, and they had so much work that they needed to do, and it was going to be a real challenge for them to really fight back. But they tried their best for the next little while, but in the end, things started to fall apart by the 33rd over, when scoring started to become much more comfortable. And in the end, the scores became level by the end of the 37th over. There was then that very bizarre 38th over where 3 wickets fell in 4 balls, but then in the 5th ball of that over, the winning runs were scored. So the score went from, it had been at 5 for 109, and that's when the winning runs really ought to have been scored. But then it was 6 for 109, 7 for 109, 8 for 109, and then the winning run, which was a boundary, so the score ends up at 8 for 113. McLeod ending up chasing down that target. And so you'd have to say that Diamond Creek gave it a great effort, but they didn't have enough runs to score. Also, some of the ways that they tried to defend their target were not, I don't think, the best. Also, you probably could think that the final 5 overs of the first session before the drinks break were not taken full advantage of, because when that extra wicket fell, when the score was 4 for 45 after 15 overs, then it was a matter of, okay, we're going to really pounce on them now. They are going to be playing to the drinks break. We know that. So it's a question of, can we take advantage of this? Both, can we take an extra wicket or 2, and can we stop them from doing any more scoring and really just shut down their innings? And unfortunately, neither of them happened. Another wicket did not fall, and McLeod were able to score 1s and 2s throughout those 5 final overs before the drinks break, and that just kept them, that made up for that lost wicket, and that meant that McLeod were back ahead where they had been before they lost that wicket. And so that probably was a major downer. And the other major downer is that the turn towards the spinners. Now, I feel that the spinners did a great job in terms of defending the score, in terms of keeping the run rate down, in terms of keeping Diamond Creek in the game. But there was no chance of the spinners taking any wickets because there were no attacking fielders. There were no plans that were obviously in set. It seemed like a real holding job, and yet the holding job was not keeping the run rate to 1 run over. It was always kept to about 2 and 2.5 runs per over, which is all that McLeod needed in order to stay in front of the game. And so what the spinners needed to do was either to take wickets or to keep the run rate to just 1 run per over, and they did neither. And in the end, those 12 overs that the spinners bowled after the drinks break were, in the end, not greatly advantageous to Diamond Creek that they otherwise should have been, because in the end McLeod were able to not lose any more wickets and score reasonably in line with what their required run rate was, so that by the time the fast bowlers came back on and it became a question of how to score these winning runs, they were so confident and in control and determined, and they had their eyes in, they had a good partnership, and it just seemed like they were so far ahead of the game that it would have taken a miracle, which we almost saw a miracle near the end, towards the end in the 37th over. It would have taken a miracle for Diamond Creek to get back in the game. Alright, so that is my assessment. That is my... that's my full commentary of this game. I've got nothing more that I need to say. So it's time to say goodbye. Now this is goodbye from 2017. What a year 2017 has been, but it is coming towards an end, and it is we have 2018 to look forward to. Who knows what next year will present us, but we know that there's going to be a lot of cricket. We know that it's going to be very exciting. We know that there's going to involve a lot of hard work, a lot of joy, a lot of misery. But that is all to be experienced in real time come next year. Okay, so it's time to say goodbye, both for this game and for 2017, and we'll see you after the Christmas break. Okay. You have been watching Channel 8, the local sports network, in association with our partners Biz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I have been Chaka Wilson. We'll see you next year. Until then, goodbye. Have a safe and enjoyable holidays. Have a good New Year's, and enjoy whatever it is that you will be celebrating over the course of this break. Goodbye from Channel 8.
When I'm walking with a house in my head, when I'm walking with a house in my head, screen doors are rusty and the roof is sagging in. When I'm walking with the voices in my head, they say you gotta jump to 2 before you go to bed. Well, just keep on walking on the road that lies ahead, and you will see. The road is dark and silent here. Somehow familiar I am near. I pass in dusky as the church bell tolls 3 times. There it is, it's a house inside my head. I gotta listen what the voice inside me said. Forgive me for what I must do, because I have no choice. Nail the door shut, I light the rag up and let it sail through the window. Watch the flaming phoenix glow, and I hear the screaming, and I see my demon, and now it's just a memory. I had no choice, it's them or me. Sunrise and the fog has burned away. present's clear, but the past is gray. I try to find my house, but I don't know the way. Well, am I ever gonna find my house? The house that's in my head. Wasted away on the edge of the city lights, at the top of the southern heights. You smoked the last one, breaking away from the cold shades of memory, from the us and the them are we somehow the same. At the end of the road, you were never really gone, but you were never really home. You spread your arms on the edge of the jagged cliff. I could feel my arms get stiff as I clenched your shoulders. Stay skin and scars and the glow of the northern star above the clamor and the speeding cars in the valley below. And you were the vagabond at the end of the road. You were never really gone, but you were never really